Okay, Jake, your turn. I want to talk to you a little about what you were like as a young musician, the age of the kids on our show, but before that, just to demonstrate your incredible range, why don't you put on your classical hat for a minute and play something for us, and then something of your own. What do we hear?
Well, the first piece, it's a song that was actually written by the great Johann Sebastian Bach. And it was inspired by a good friend of mine, Michael Lawrence, who put together a Bach film. And he said, hey, Jake, I want to feature you in my film, but you got to play Bach. And I was like, the ukulele? But so I'm going to do the Bach two-part Invention, number 4 in D minor, followed by a flamenco piece that was inspired by the great Carlos Montoya. It's a piece called Let's Dance.
Okay. play for us two-part Invention in D minor by Johann Sebastian Bach and his own Monterey-inspired composition, Let's Dance. I understand that your mom was the one who handed you your first ukulele.
Well, I grew up in Hawaii, so it's not uncommon for kids, you know, to be running around with their ukuleles and playing in the park or at the beach. And so my mom played when she was a kid, and when I was about 4 years old, she put one in my hands and taught me my first 3 chords, which sounded like. And I was hooked, you know, and it was 3 chords, 3 simple chords, but with those 3 chords, you can play at least 300 traditional Hawaiian tunes.
So how soon was it before you not just playing traditional Hawaiian music, you were trying to figure out how to play top 40 and rock and roll and things like that?
Yeah, well, it all started with, actually when I entered high school, you know, there were all these different cliques. And because up until my early teenage years, I was playing all traditional Hawaiian music. And then in high school, I started hanging around with the heavy metal guys and the drama club and the band, and I got exposed to all these different styles of music. But I remember a friend of mine handed me a VHS tape of a Van Halen concert. And I remember taking that home, popped it in, and I was just mesmerized watching the television, watching Eddie Van Halen just shred on the guitar and the band members just running across the stage and stage diving. And I remember watching that and thinking to myself, that's what an ukulele concert should be like.
So here you are playing all kinds of solo music in Hawaii, and Sony Music Japan signs you to a record deal, but something happens along the way that perks up the whole world's ears to the possibilities of the ukulele. You went viral, right? I mean, in the early days of YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was in New York City for the first time, and I was doing a show there called Ukulele Disco, which was it was a local television program that featured different ukulele players. And so, of course, I was so excited to be on that show. And they took me into Central Park, right next to Strawberry Fields, and they had me play a song. And at the time, I was working on an arrangement of George Harrison's While My Guitar Gently Weeps, because I've been a huge George Harrison fan my whole life, because, you know, he was a huge enthusiast of the, you know, ukulele enthusiast. Mm-hmm. And so I played that song, and it appeared on television, and then I went back home to Hawaii. And then a few months later, see, this was about 6 or 7 years ago, and around that time, there was a site called YouTube that was just starting out, who happened to be sponsoring the show tonight. But they, so a clip from this television show got on YouTube. And then a few months after I returned to Hawaii, some friends of mine that were on the mainland and going to school, they started emailing me and saying, hey, someone just sent me this video clip of you playing in Central Park. And I think since then it's gotten, I think, almost 8 million downloads or something like that. So wow. It has completely changed my life. And I tell people all the time, if you saw that video and emailed it to a friend, I sincerely thank you, because I'm telling you, you know, a few years ago, there was no such thing as a solo touring ukulele player.
It's true. So now things have really taken off, and since then you've collaborated with everybody. Jimmy Buffett, Bela Fleck, Yo-Yo Ma, Ziggy Marley. But Jake, have you ever collaborated with the sensational 12-year-old guitarist Roberto Granados?
No, but I'm a huge fan, and I'm looking forward to playing with him.
Well, here's your chance.
Right here.
Oh, here he is. Roberto is our next young guest, and he's sneaking up to the mic now. Welcome, Roberto. Tell everyone where you're from.
I'm from Hayward, California.
Roberto first appeared on our show at the age of 9, and he performed a gorgeous Spanish classical piece followed by a demonstration of his talents in other genres. So Jake, he's a man after your own and Charles's heart. He's right in there playing all kinds of music. Roberto, since we last saw you, you had the incredible opportunity of playing for some guy, Irish, his last name must be Obama, I guess. How did that happen?
Well, yeah, From the Top contacted my dad and asked him if I would like to play at the Democratic National Committee's fundraising event for Organizing for American Organizing for America is an organization that raises funds for better health care, better education and jobs for everyone. And so I got the chance to play there. I played a flamenco piece by Vicente Amigo. And before I played the piece, I mentioned how my flamenco guitar teacher, Jason McGuire, always mentions how if everybody could live in compás, in flamenco compás is rhythm, then perhaps we could be brought together to make some change. And I also commented that if we could be brought together like that, then we could possibly break down the walls of hatred, violence, and fear and create a better world than the one that we're living in. And I dedicated the piece to all the children and all the people of the world. And after I played the piece, there was a roar, and I got a standing ovation from the whole crowd. And then afterwards, I did get to meet President Obama. I gave him a hug, I gave him a copy of my CD, and I told him that my grandmother, or my Uma, loves him, and he said, tell her thank you, and he congratulated me on, the performance, and he said, keep up the good work.
Beautiful. Well, Roberto, I'm sure the ovation was in equal measure due to not only your fantastic musicianship, but your eloquent and passionate advocacy. And we thank you for that. And now we're really looking forward to hearing you play with Jake. Jake, what are we going to hear?
This is a piece called Pianoforte, and I wrote it a couple years ago. It was inspired by the sound of the piano. And I actually wrote it for two ukuleles, one for the left hand and the other one to play the right hand part. But Roberto got a hold of it, and he came up with a beautiful guitar arrangement. So we're going to do it as a duet.
Fantastic. Jake Shimabukuro and 12-year-old guitarist Roberto Granados from Jake's composition Pianoforte. Jake and Roberto will be back later on in the show.